Parashat Noach. If you look at mankind likes to run forward, to look for new things, to look for things that are unknown, what he doesn't know, what is curious, what it makes him curious about, to look into things, whatever is extraordinary, different, always like to do that. And along the line with that, or together with that, most people really despise whatever it's common, known, regular. Most people despise routine and anything that has to do with a habit. Everybody likes to be like spontaneous and so on and so forth. And by doing so, you're missing out on appreciation and not actually knowing the true value of something that is basic and constant, something that it's there all the time. This is true for the life of the individual and also for a society as a whole. And whether it's an individual person or even a whole entire nation. And it seems that at that point, we kind of missed it out big time. We missed the target completely. We off target in this issue. One of the greatest questions that arise from this Parashat Noach, is those punishments that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave for the two great sins that were mentioned in this week's parasha. In the beginning of the parasha, we have the generation of the flood. And they are sin with what the Torah calls Hamas, Gezel, Ve'arayot. Of course, everybody jumps, Hamas. This is not the Hamas that we're talking about, and don't read into things because maybe it's time to learn Hebrew. Hamas really means different types of acts of violence. Gezel is stealing, oppression, and Arayot is forbidden relationships. Of course, we are talking about very severe things, and listen, they get maybe the greatest punishment that humanity ever suffered or experienced, and that's basically the destruction of the world through a flood. At the end of the portion, we have the another chet, but this one is Dora Palaga, a generation of separation, that really build a tower, that the whole intent of this tower is really to rebel against God. The whole intent of this tower is heresy and a direct conflict with God himself. That's the whole purpose of this taking. The whole purpose of this tower. Now, we don't really know for sure how to grade a sin. No, we know how to grade a mitzvah, but neither to say a sin. Which sin is worse than the other? But without a doubt, if you think about it, picking up a fight or doing things directly against God at such magnitude is really a severe sin. It's really a major thing that those people do. However, if you compare what they were suffered as a result of that sin, or the punishment in which they received as a result of that sin, comparing with the sin of Dora Mabul, it doesn't really seem to be fit. Something just doesn't make sense. Now, the parasha starts with the words, Elle toledot Noach. This is basically the story about Noach. Noach ish tzadik tamim haya bedorotav. He was a righteous and a whole man in his generation. The Ari explains what is the concept of tzaddik. Now, you will see that most people have the concept of tzaddik wrong, and because they have the concept of tzaddik wrong, they also have the concept of tzedek completely, or what we call justice, completely off. According to the Ari, the concept of tzaddik is a person that knows to establish and to continue and maintain in his life a complete connection to what we call the sfera of Yesod, to the attribute of Yesod. According to the Kabbalah, our job in this world is really attach ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So of course the Gemara asks, how is this possible? Arei esh ochelahu is a consuming fire. How can you attach yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So the answer is, hidabek b'midotav. Now we need to see what exactly are the midot, but according to the Kabbalah, the midot really means the sferot, those concept of sferot, those attributes. So if we try to imagine or to understand what does it mean to connect yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chazal tells us that it really is almost like an effort. Let's put it this way. Let's talk in our terms. To really connect an electric outlet directly to the power station, or directly to the high voltage grid. It's just impossible. It's just about the thing would fry. So what do we need? We need a filter, right? It goes from the power station to the high voltage to transmission powers and so on and so forth till it comes to your outlet, and you can plug it in and you can have your light, or you can do whatever you need to do. So our way to connect to the upper worlds really requires us a certain passage of the spiritual world through what we call those curtains or whatever it is, those filters that we call the sferot or midot or attributes, and the sfera that really connects us to the upper worlds and from which the whole abundance really comes from is the sfera of Yesod. The sfera of Yesod. And maybe if you're going to understand, now that we have somewhat of an understanding, you could understand better the concept of what we call tzaddik, Yesod Olam. In other words, that tzaddik is a person that has an ability to connect himself to the upper worlds, right? And therefore, Parashat Noach, in a way, shows us how each and every one of us, in theory, could connect himself to bring himself to such a connection. The Ari explains that the three sons of Noach that we have are against what they call the three lines, right? Now, the three lines are right, left, and middle. It really represents the three forces that are active in each and every one of us. There's our right side, our left side, and the middle side. So the right side really represents chesed, kindness, our willingness to give and to endlessly give love or caring to no end, with no limits. The left side represents our urges and our needs to receive to ourselves only. Only give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. The middle line is the balance between the two, and the middle line is receiving in order to give. Receiving in order to give. These are the three lines. So in a way, so a person could really live in what we call in harmony, right, with himself and with the world around him. In other words, in order for a person to connect to Sfirat Yesod, he needs to have all those three lines inside of him. However, the Ari adds further that when you make a line, right, you take a thing, you make a line, whoa, I haven't seen you in a million years. Here, have yourself some cholent.
Thank you so
much. The
much.
Idan made, it is really amazing cholent, one of the best ever. Eitan, there's also some medicine there. You can have it, So the Ari says that when you make a line, how do you make a line? You take a line, give me 1 second, the board, erase it, and then give me a marker also. You sit here, Motek. Quicker. We need to make the lines. Is the other side also dirty? Okay, fine. Give me a marker. Okay, fine. Give me a marker. From there. It's fine. Yonason.
Video?
Yeah, video, chulent, everything. Thank you. So, you see, we are accepting everybody that's a pink line, a pink marker. Yofi. So the Ari says that when we make a line, oops, what do? Right? If we want to make a line, it's just a straight line like this, right? And then we have the 3 lines, right? We're gonna make it this way. And then we have another 3 line, right? These are the 3 lines. Right, middle, and left. Okay? So now, in a way, that is, each one looks like the letter. Which letter in Hebrew?
Shin.
Vav. What's Shin? Vav. There's a Vav, right? Here, I'll make it to you nicer, right? Here. Doing upside down. Right? Lines. Right? These are the lines. Now, he said that these are the 3 lines. So in order for this plumbing to be the right plumbing, right, we need to have those 3 lines. Now, I don't know much about plumbing, but you need to have a return line, a feed line, and then an air line, whatever it is, right? You know more than me. So in order for this plumbing to work, you need to have those 3 lines in you. In order the plumbing to work for us, to connect ourselves to the Sfera or Yesod. However, the Ari says that since it looks like Vav, right? This is how you write Vav. The numerical value of Vav is 6. So if I have here 1, 2, 3, 18, right? So it's 18. This is times 3, right? So that equals 18. 18, the gematria of 18 is Chai. The gematria of 18 is Chai. Now that's why people have Chai here, right? So the gematria of 18 is Chai. In other words, once we're able to connect within ourselves, that connection to Sfirat Yesod by creating those 3 lines, giving, receiving, and then ultimately receiving in order to give, now we are connected to the Sfira of Yesod. This is what creates the Sfira of Yesod. Now he adds on, in order for this line to actually work, I need to have some kind of a connecting line, right? So when I'm connecting all this line, right, I'm getting the letter Shin. Now, what's Shin? 300. Shin is 300. Shin is basically 300. And together with the letters of Chai, if you take Shin and Chai, right? So you take Shin, and then you take Chai, right? You get what? Shem, Cham, and Yefet. When you connect them, you create Shem, Cham, and Yefet. Now, the Parashat basically tells us later on, of course, about the Teva, the size of the Teva, that the Teva is Orech HaTeva, 300 Amah, right? 300 Amot. Like the Shin, like the 300. Right here, just put over there, down. And Rochba, and the width of the Teva, 50 Amah. It's 50 Amah wide, ו-30 Amah komata, and 30 Amot high. Now, you're talking really like a very big vessel. I mean, Noach is building like this mega ship. If an Amah is about, let's say, between 1.5 to 2 feet, right? Yeah. So 300 Amot, that's a 600 feet boat. It's almost like like an aircraft carrier. I don't know. This is huge. This thing is big. Okay, big or not big, but how are you going to put all the animals inside? And what for such a long time? How is this really possible? But you need to understand, because it doesn't make sense, but you need to understand, and we must understand, that our Torah is not just a history book or a recording of this, and this gives that, and this, that, the other thing. Our Torah is basically a set of books, of laws, that many times it is, and probably most of the time, are spiritual laws. For the ruchniyut, for the spirit inside of us. And in a way, those laws supposed to guide us how we could live whole and fulfilled life. So how do you live, first of all, a whole and fulfilled life, right? You need to be able to do what? You need to be able to connect those three lines, to be able to call alive, right? So now, as much as we said before, there are three separate lines. Don't forget, we need to be together. And when we connect it together, we got the letter Shin, and the letter Shin, as we said before, is 300. So the first thing that we need to build in the Teva is, in our spiritual being also, is the connection, is those three lines, and the connection, to be able to make sure that it's not only giving, it's not only receiving, it's giving in order to receive. Now, if you, give me this 1 second, which will also make sense if you look at different types of Hebrew script, right? So we have let's say the Sephardi connection of Shin, right? That it's like this, right? The three lines in the Shin, which is basically like this, or the Ashkenazi, there will be more. They're all connected. You see, this is like the Ashkenazi one, or what we call the Bet Yosef. That's the Shin. That all these three lines basically meet where the middle line is. Yeah. So the giving and receiving and so on and so forth has to be in balance all concentrating on giving in order, on receiving in order to give, not any other way. In other words, the selfishness has to be contained, and the selflessness has to be contained in order to create a balance. Because I can tell you from my own experience, if you only give and you don't get, you get burnt out. Sometimes we make that mistake too. So, and this is what everything is saying. So now, how do you really make that practical? How do you utilize it? How do you make it work? So now, the parasha continues with the words "Vatishchat haaretz lifnei Elokim v'timale haaretz Hamas." We already spoke about Hamas. It's not the Hamas, right? Well, what does it mean, Vatishchat? In Hebrew, tishchat, ashchit is really to destroy, but also comes from the word shchitut. I like your hat. What's shchitut? Corruption. Mushchat is a corrupt person. Lashchit, the world became corrupted. According to the code of the lines that we said beforehand, shchitut, corruption, means that we're only using the left side only. Give me, give me, give me. What could you do for me? What have you done for me lately? Not what could I do for you? What have you done for me? It's all about me, me, me. And usually when people are all about me, they usually are serial complainers. They always complain. They're never happy. Always complain. Always looking for somebody to blame. Always looking to receive. And only to receive. And even when they give so they could receive. They don't give in order to give, they give so they could receive. Not receiving in order to give, the other way around. Now, we need to understand that when you're using that, you only take to yourself without giving, the measurement has to be equal. Whatever you get, you need to return. Then you create the balance. Otherwise, you tip over. So if, for example, somebody invested a lot in you, you have to pay him back at the same token. And that is, one time somebody told me, as a matter of fact, recently somebody told me that it's a mistake not to charge people to come to learn in Yeshiva, because then they don't appreciate it. It made me think. Now, Hamas, as we said before, which means violence, really means robbery, extortion, gezel, stealing, lack of justice, and so on and so forth. That's called Hamas. When you're very upfront, violent, and so on and so forth. The Zohar on Parashat Neso says that in our time, the prophecy of Hayat Tzarea Lerosh, that the heads will be, those who oppress it will become the head of it. In other words, those who will bring the problems to you, that will be the heads of you, will be your rulers. You really see that in many places, the heads of states and heads of governments and so on and so forth are people who receive the most bribery. And I mean, you get a person that was give me a thing, was a bartender, right? All of a sudden became a politician. Now he's a multimillionaire. How did that happen? Well, that's exactly an example. I've never seen a poor politician. All politicians are rich. So that is exactly what the prophecy is saying. Now, and it says, because of them, because of those people, there's a lot of violence in the world, all around us. The generation of the Mabul, of the flood, was a generation in which everything was allowed. Whatever you wanted, you did. You want something, you see it, take it. You don't understand how bad this behavior is. This behavior that you could do whatever you want will cause you a complete behavioral addiction. The reason why we have so much addictions or problems this time is because everything is allowed. You're allowed to do whatever you want. Nobody can tell you anything. The word no became a terrible word. You can't say to anybody no. Whatever you want, go ahead. That will cause you, for example, addiction for eating. I mean, there are more obese people now than ever before in history. It's not because people are hungry. It's because people are addicted. It causes the problem of drugs, alcohol, sex, money. It's all allowed. The problem, what we see today, it's disgusting, it's because of that behavior. Nobody tells you, no, listen, you can't do that. Or this is wrong to do. There's no checks and balances anymore. Everything, you feel like doing something, go ahead and do it. So, when we are in a society in which the left side is ruling, in other words, selfishness is ruling, don't come and complaining, and don't wonder what disaster will come, and a crumbling will fall, and if you want to a certain extent, the Mabul will come and hit you. A flood will come and hit you. That's why we need to build ourselves our own Noach's ark. We need to build ourselves a protection. So we're not going to drown, because it is going to come. Now you need to do whatever you can in your power to save yourself from drowning, right? Because you don't want to fall also into this acts of violence, selfishness, and injustice that is all around us. Baal HaSulam explains that there are 4 different parameters that really cause the path of a person or the destiny of the person in his life. Of course, there is the genetic component here. Exactly, you came right on time. Nurture versus nature. According to Baal HaSulam, it's both. By the way, Chulent is phenomenal. Take some. There is the genetic. There's something that you were born with according to them. Don't ask me if I'm holding by or not. That means the Gilgulim, your previous reincarnations. The society in which you were born into, and the education in which you are receiving or thought to receive for yourself. Now, the Baal HaSulam teaches us that the only one that is not in your control is basically your genetic code, your genetic package that you're coming with. That's your genes, not genes, your genes, right? There's nothing you can do about it. If your father was tall, your father was bald, your mother was there, that's what you're going to get with, However, all the other things, it's all in your hand to change. It's all in your hands to change. And and your perception of what is right or what is wrong and so on and so forth, you have an ability to influence and you have an ability to change, especially when it comes to your society or your friends or your teachers, or the books that you read, or the movies that you watch, or the music that you listen to. It is all in your hands. Therefore, you need to ask yourself, is our society around us? Is my behavior, again, it's not something that people would like to hear today. My behavior, yes, you are responsible for your behavior. If somebody was not nice to you and you chose to act not nice, that's on you. You can't blame of another person that he wasn't nice to you. You have a choice. This is all in your hands. If our society, we need to understand, and if your society, it does not connect you to that sphere of your soul, you need to move out of there. Or the community, or your friends, or your own self. You need to do something about it. Otherwise, guys, you're not going to make it. Nobody's going to make it. If a person wants to be protected, he needs to make sure that he's going to have a supporting community around it. I don't care how tough of a mountain man you think you are, but any person that lives alone in the wilderness, it doesn't make a difference if it's tough as nails. If you live alone in the wilderness for a prolonged period of time, you're going to become weird. You're going to start to have conversation with yourself. You're going to be weird. You need society around you, or you need a healthy society in you that is going to support you in your connection to the Sphera of Yesod as Bifsei. A society that would tell you rules of giving to society. How you are expected to pay for society or to contribute to society. In other words, society does not need leeches, parasites. A person that always wants everything to himself, that is extremely selfish, is a spiritual parasite. You don't want that. You need to somebody to tell you, listen, buddy, you're doing wrong. Whether you like to hear it or not. No, these are the rules that we have to play. Everybody has to, and you see it in Israel. One of the things that really saved the plan of those murderous beasts was really to go. They had so much ammunition. And by the way, they were all on drugs. I forgot which drug. It's like poor man's coke. I forgot what it was. Their plan was really to go all the way as far as they can to Kiryat Gat and further out to really create tremendous chaos. One of the things that really stopped them is the willingness of people that were volunteers to really throw themselves into this hell and really stand together. There are a lot of volunteers that were, guarding volunteers and so on and so forth. But these are the people. Where the army really was scrambling, these are the people who stand. You need to also contribute to your society. If you separate yourself from society, if you separate yourself from a healthy group of people, you better watch out. The flood is coming your way. The tsunami is going. And I don't care how good swimmer you are. I don't care how much money you have. You can't pay your way around during a tsunami. You can't buy your way out through a tsunami. You can't. It's coming your way. So you better be very careful when you move out of a healthy community that really supports you and helps you, and all of a sudden you're alone. You got to be very careful. It's coming your way. and a society that is not going to make you become super competitive all the time. In other words, I got to be number one. If I'm not number one, I'm out of here. That's terrible. Because if you're going to be number one, if you strive to be number one, you're going to always make sure that somebody else is number two. You're never going to give a chance to somebody else to be number one. Well, that's a dog-eat-dog kind of a life. We don't need people like this in society. We need a society that is always going to be mutual responsibility. Mutual responsibility, which is true mutual responsibility. Not only when it's convenient for me to help you, I'll help you. I'll help you when if it's not convenient to me. I'll help you even if I don't like you. For whatever reason, I don't like you. But I'm responsible to you. We are all in this together. And again, you see it in Israel. All of a sudden, all the fights that they had left, right, Bibi, Shmibi, all of a sudden, this has been put away to the side. Only when most of humanity will understand that, only then we can reach a place of true peace and true harmony on a global scale, and on a smaller scale, and also on an individual scale. When I'm going to realize that I need to be in peace with everybody else, I'm going to be in peace with myself. However, if you are in a fight with everybody else, if you isolate yourself, means that first of all that you are not harmonious. You have a problem with yourself. The problem stems from you, and you just project it out to everybody else. So you need to work on yourself. We need to understand. Go back. If you go back now to the story of the Tower of Babel, because we asked the question: how is it that the Tower of Babel that rebelled against HaKadosh Baruch Hu got less of a punishment than the Dor HaMabul? I mean, again, you have to admit that rebellion on such an extent, on such a magnitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a very, very severe, and yet the punishment, as we said before, was much less. They simply got separated all over the world. Well, how do we deal with this? Comes Rashi and explaining something. Rashi is amazing. He felt that issue here. And he said something so clear and so wonderful. And he says the following, and there are some people who would say that it's really, okay, it's like, we heard this already a million times, but pay attention to what Rashi says. It's so true, it's so powerful, that probably because of that, we missed it, and because we missed that, we missed the whole scenario altogether. The generation of the Palaga, those people who built the Tower of Babel, Rashi says, maybe sinned in a great sin, rebelling against God himself. I don't think there could be anything worse than that. However, they were all united behind that sin. They were all unified. That's why their punishment was minimal and minute comparing to, he didn't wipe them out. You rebel against me, I should wipe it all out. What do we say about a person who's mored b'malchut? Chayav mitah. You rebelled against Melech Malchei Melachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, it's okay, as long as you are united. But the generation of the Mabul, of the flood, that made, they had those sins, they really made the sins in which the bigger sin that they had, they made people hate one another. They hated one another. They created a division between people. One person could not see two people get along. He will get in between and break them. That's the sin of Dor HaMabul. It's very hard to understand for us and us to accept it. But even being united for the sake of heresy, right? There is a certain light in it, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on people like that more than people who divide. It says, "Kshemidat adin mishtalachat, ena mavchina ben tzadik ve'rasha." When the measurement of judgment is being unleashed, does not distinguish between a righteous man and a wicked man. I'm going to tell you something else. Especially in times that we are now, and Rabotai, be very, very careful. Right now, I would hate to think that we are, but it seems like we are in somewhat of a midat adin. And midat adin was probably unleashed because especially us as Jews, were not united. We were all divided. Left against right, secular against religious, conservative against reform, again them against orthodox, progressive against conservatives. We were not united. Midat adin is out. Now, I'm going to tell you the following. Eina mavchina ben tzadik ve'rasha, when the measurements of judgment is being unleashed, it does not distinct if you are dividing because if you are right or you are wrong. It doesn't care if you are right and you're angry, and because of that, let's say for example, Chad v'Shalom, I'm angry at Idan, and because of that, I'm going to make sure, so-called to protect Yosef, I'm going to separate, because I'm right, because he did something wrong, because he's a bad man. No. Even if you are right, even if you're a tzaddik, it would not, when Midat Adin comes out, would not distinguish whether you're right or you are wrong. You are dividing, you're going to get hammered. You are dividing, you're going to get hammered. When a person speaks Lashon Hara, there's no greater sin than Lashon Hara. Why? Because when you speak Lashon Hara, 3 people get hammered. Who? The person who speaks, the person who hears, and the person you spoke about. A person who speaks, so Rabotai, not only that you should not speak Lashon Hara bichlal, especially now, don't speak, even if you think you are right. Even if you think, listen, I have a very good reason to speak Lashon Hara. You are right now dividing. And even back then you're dividing. But the only difference is right now you're going to get hammered. Our job is to, first of all, try to put a stop for that. And explain to people, listen, whether you're right or wrong, don't divide further the Am Yisrael. Don't divide further the Jewish people. We need to create a form of unity among us. Later on we could deal with things if they are still important back then. If in 50 years they're still going to bother you, well, you know what, go to therapy, because nothing is worth to be angry about something for 50 years. And if it's not something you're going to be worthwhile fighting over 50 years, you might as well just drop it. But right now we need to have that. So if you have people, whether it's a shul, whether it's friends, whether it's whatever, a person that divides should be put in place and be asked and warned to stop, because not only he going to get whacked, we all going to get whacked. Because he cannot just separate himself, he would separate therefore everybody else. And one after the other, layer after layer, we all going to fall apart and we're not going to be able to stand. We need to create that security not only for ourselves, we need to create that security for all. So let's try to stop talking Lashon Hara. Let's stop being selfish. Let's be grateful for all those people who helped us throughout the time. And it's not a bad time to pick up the phone and say, listen, buddy, 2 years ago, I know you gave me a ride. I never got the chance to say to you thank you. I was thinking about it. You know what? Thank you very much. It will make you into a better person. It will make your life worth living, because your life is going to be connected to the Sfera of Yesod. Your life is be worthy to be called life. But if you don't do that, don't come crying. So I wish on everybody, first of all, Am Yisrael Ba'asher Hem, wherever they are, Shabbat Shalom. Peace and harmony to all the Jews. And all the captives should be free and healthy. And those who are wounded who are healthy. And those who perish, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Kom Damam. And I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom ve'Am Yisrael Chai.